Hello and welcome to First Impressions. This is a show where every week my co-host Ash Hooper and I evaluate an album we've never heard before. And after playing it, we take notes, rate it in a variety of categories, and let you know our thoughts. Tonight, we are looking at the 1984 album 2 by Meat Puppets. So, how are you doing tonight?
Very good, very good. Ready to talk about Meat Puppets and this album.
Yes. Should be interesting. It's one of those ones I was able to find a few podcasts that gave some backstory on it, but yeah, it's kind of what I thought, knowing SST and the label they came from. It kind of I had certain knowledge beforehand of what the sound would generally be. So yeah, once we get into the history, we can kind of talk about all that, but we will hold our thoughts for now.
I was trying to explain it to a 9-year-old, so that was fun.
Yeah, I think I was solo when I was playing this one, and I didn't realize the version on Spotify was the 1999 version,
or it had like 24 songs,
extra songs. So then I had to search the track list to see the true track list, so that way we could cover just the main songs on it. I mean, there's the extra version, but we don't need to go that deep. So how are you, Dylan?
Hello, Kevin. Or Dylan? Oh, that's Dylan.
Yeah.
Dylan.
So, welcome. And yeah, let me get into the history. I kind of found, like I said, I found a few podcasts, not a lot, and was able to dig a little bit deeper. But Meat Puppets were a very influential underground rock band from the 1980s and 90s. They formed in Phoenix, Arizona in 1980 with the brothers Kurt Kirkwood and Chris Kirkwood, along with drummer Derek Bostrom. And they began as a fast hardcore punk band. So if you listen to Meat Puppets 2, you wouldn't know that they were a hardcore band. There's little there's pieces of that hiding in there, but they started as just a straight hardcore band and then evolved from album 2 and beyond. They kind of evolved into something stranger, more unique. They got labeled a new label, because there's always a new label, Cowpunk. So that's what they kind of got categorized as. So Cowpunk, and let's see, some comments, we'll do those. So
try explaining Cowpunk
to
a 9-year-old.
Okay. Yeah, so yes, from Arizona, and their earliest year, they were connected to the Southern California hardcore punk scene because they signed with the independent label SST Records. And if you know anything about SST Records, it was formed by Greg Ginn, who was the founder and guitarist of Black Flag. So when SST began, it was kind of an outlet for him to release the Black Flag material, but then they expanded farther beyond that, released Husker Du, Minutemen, Bad Brains. A lot of hugely influential punk bands got released on SST, and Meat Puppets being one of them. When their first album came out, they were just, another hardcore punk act on that, but SST kind of evolved as a lot of these bands wanted to not just be another hardcore band. Because when we get into kind of the history of the album, we'll talk about the hardcore scene they're, if anything, they are very rigid and they don't want any kind of change. So they started as this fast, punk band, and then started to bring in psychedelic rock, country, folk, and just desert jam music. So their earliest years, they had that punk sound, but as they evolved, it's all over the map. If you haven't played the album, it goes a little bit everywhere. So the breakthrough was actually the album we're covering tonight. This is where they broke away from that hardcore, brought in country, brought in psychedelic, brought in kind of surreal imagery. Then that's when they got the label Cowpunk. Before that, they were just another hardcore band. And I will say, kind of prefacing before we talk about anything, Kurt's voice works better as a hardcore singer than as anything else, honestly. But I'm getting ahead of myself.
So were they shunned because of the cowpunk sound on that label, or
Yeah, when I get into the history of that album, it did lead to some issues.
I was trying to
So,
find something on it, and most everything just said there was a lot of influence, but it
mhm,
never said there was anything that like they were shunned by it. And listening to
yeah,
what you're saying here, and then me listening to the album, I could see why they might be a little bit.
yeah. Kurt wrote. There was, I don't know if Kurt was the writer or if it was a biography, but there was a biography or autobiography written by the Meat Puppets, and I listened to a little bit of that, just kind of the earliest parts, and there was some creative tensions between them and SST when they kind of left that standard hardcore sound and evolved, and a lot of the bands did on SST. If you listen to the Minutemen, they
Mhm.
kind of changed their style a lot, and the record label wasn't necessarily loving it. But I mean, even Black Flag, I mean, if you listen to early Black Flag as compared to what they later got into, it evolved a lot too. So I think the Greg Ginn and a lot of the people who were running the label, they did grow up with standard kind of, radio rock that would have been from the 60s and 70s. So they weren't entirely away. They weren't entirely opposed to the evolution, but there was a little bit of jealousy that happened with this
Yeah.
particular album as well. So at their follow-up, On the Sun, expanded more of that psychedelic and melodic side where you see kind of the hardcore getting fully pushed out, and their atmospheric work kind of got them noticed by a lot of bands that were coming up. So bands like Dinosaur Jr., Soundgarden, Pavement, Nirvana, REM, they cited the Meat Puppets as an influence. So they continued to release records, and they released Mirage, Huevos, and Monster, and it became more polished. So yeah, this album is definitely, it's not the most polished thing you'll hear, but again, getting ahead of myself. But their biggest, their kind of the big exposure moment came in 1993, and that's when the Nirvana MTV Unplugged. I don't know if you've seen
Yep.
the performances on that one,
Yeah.
but Kurt and Chris got brought up by Kurt Cobain, and they played 3 songs from this particular album. They played Plateau, Oh Me, and Lake of Fire, and that was the album that actually got them found and signed by a major label. Up until that point, they were this underground band. People loved them, they talked about them, but they hadn't received any of that mainstream success. And then this album in particular had a huge boost in sales, seeing as all 3 songs that were performed came from it. So they released their first major label album, Too High to Die, and it had the song Backwater, which was a moderate hit. I don't know if you've heard that one.
I have not heard that one.
Yeah, it's, oh gosh, that's the one that I knew. I heard the MTV songs, and then that one got a lot of play on MTV, but probably when you were deployed, as a lot of these ones, and it wasn't huge enough to get a lot of airplay, outside of MTV's alternative programming and things like that. And out here it's K-Rock. K-Rock's kind of the station where we see, that they would have played things like that. So let's see. go back a little bit because as I'm reading, I don't see the questions. But yes, cowpunk is what they labeled it, and it's kind of country punk is what I would kind of categorize it as. That's where it lives in that category.
A little
And
psychedelic, or I don't know. Say
yeah, the psychedelic,
yeah,
very much like desert rock. You hear it and you definitely think of a desert when you're listening to it.
yeah.
And then John, how's it going? And
Hello,
then
John. Pops.
yes. So yeah, it's there's so many damn categories. I mean, dirt gaze, we got that.
Dirt
So
gaze, yeah.
so yeah, it's just kind of psychedelic country punk because you got a little bit of all that on this album. If you play it, it goes through a full spectrum of sound. I mean, it opens very punk rock. It then goes into an instrumental that's very bluegrassy. So it is all over the map, and that's where cowpunk's label kind of came from. So with their success, they still had a lot of issues because the band was heavily into drugs, and Chris Kirkwood was very using a lot of different drugs. Even on this album, when we talk about the creation of it, drugs were definitely a big part of it. Especially they were doing acid, probably moved in. It's the 90s, so heroin was probably in there. So in 1996, the band broke up. Kurt later revived the band with a different lineup, and that band dissolved. And then Chris was continuing to have these huge legal problems, having addiction problems, and finally recovered. So in 2006, the band reunited with with the original lineup, the brothers and the drummer, and that's kind of where I saw them when we get into our history. That's the one time I did see them play live was during this particular reunion, and they've released several albums since coming back. And I guess so that lineup that was without the drummer, but now the drummer rejoined in 2019, and that's the touring version that they have going right now. So yeah, they've broken up several times, they've come back several times, and now they are back for, I don't know, I guess for real, but they're back and touring. I think
I know he's clean. I know he's clean now, at least so the story goes. He's clean.
All right, so on a scale of 10, would we rate Johnny Cash as cowpunk? I'd say I'd put that at like a 3.
3.
I mean, if I were going to label him anything of all these 8 million categories we've discovered while going through this, I think I would pretty much put him in alt country.
Alt country or outlaw country is what.
Outlaw country or alt country is where he kind of lives better, because the thing about the cowpunk is it has punk elements where it's got that loud, fast punk rhythm, and Johnny Cash never really went to that. He kind of stayed at a slower tempo, which could put him into alt country, but I wouldn't really add him into the cowpunk. Honestly, I don't know who else I would add into cowpunk. I'd have to kind of do
anybody that you would think is mainstream country.
No.
Would you put into cowpunk? Now you're gonna have a lot of your, like you were talking about, a lot of your desert themed bands and things like that. But
yeah,
I like I said, for today was the first day I learned of cowpunk, so I'd have to go back and do some research.
And even them, as they progressed, as the albums moved along, I think even they would kind of drop out of the cowpunk and kind of more just evolved into psychedelic. But it's the earlier ones, because I think because they came out as just a standard hardcore band, that's how the cowpunk would even come about, is that their new album just drops in all of these country rhythms, and it's like, all right, where are we going to put them? They don't fit in the hardcore category anymore, so we'll just make a new one up, and it's cowpunk. But I would say, like, lyrically, he's saying that The songs are kind of punk themed. I would say lyrically, Johnny Cash might have that, but musically, not. If you listen musically to this album, listen to the first 2 tracks and you'll know what cowpunk is. You got hardcore followed by instrumental bluegrass and, kind of then everything in between. So yeah, outlaw country, maybe even goth country, but yeah, definitely cowpunk. I wouldn't go there unless lyrically, musically, it doesn't really fit in that. And like I said, you need to listen to it. It's one of those things where I wish we could play clips without having to worry about getting dropped off. And I'm almost off for summer break, so once I'm off, I can start making sure that we play the album before we come on, and I'll be able to do it because I won't be racing home from work, which is kind of where I'm doing it now, is rush home so I can get in time to even put together the last pieces for the show. But once I'm off, we can do that. And then if you tune into the Pilled stream, you can hear the album beforehand, and then you'll know what cowpunk is. So yeah, it's definitely out there. Once we dig into talking about everything, yeah, you'll see our thoughts, because I don't know Dash's thoughts. We backstage we keep it intentionally vague unless we really hate something and it's just like, oh damn, here we go. Let's begin releasing our hatred. But yeah, we weren't there on this one. We weren't.
If it's really bad, I tell him so he's not surprised and he tells me, so I'm not surprised. So the only I think it's only been a couple times where we've actually been backstage and said, God.
Yeah, like what bad. Like 3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah, when we dove into King Crimson, we both were just like, oh wow, we couldn't wait till the show started. We had thoughts. All right, so let's dig into the history of the album. So Meat Puppets 2 is what it was. If you buy the album, it's that, but it's been shortened to 2. It was released in April 1984 on SST Records, and it became kind of the defining album of the Meat Puppets that showed the shift in music for them. And it didn't sell well at first, but I mean, a lot of the SSTs didn't, because they weren't getting play on MTV. They weren't getting radio play. They were like the most underground of underground, kind of like when we talked about Fugazi, Discord Records. That was the East Coast version where they weren't getting any kind of mainstream play, so the albums weren't going to sell well. They probably sold at shows. You go to the concert, you go to the merch booth, you buy the album probably directly from one of the band members, and it was all, straight DIY. So it was a huge change from their 1982 album, which I've never played, so I don't know, but I just know from what I listened to, what I read, the first album was just a straight ahead hardcore album, and 2 mixed a lot more of their influences. It has country, folk, psychedelic, bluegrass, and even some jam band influences, because they were fans of the Grateful Dead. So this is the kind of thing that they would have tried to bring into their records without, just directly changing everything. So it was one of the things that it had. I had a lot of drugs involved in it. So the creation of the album, if you listen to later interviews, they talk about how they were using acid and ecstasy, and that's what they wrote Lake of Fire and Magic Toy Missing. Kurt wrote it during an acid trip. So he also wrote the album. He also painted the album. The album cover was painted when he was really high. So drugs just kind of stick on it. But the album was recorded at Total Access Studio in Redondo Beach, California, which was basically the main studio where the SST albums were generally recorded. And Spot was the producer. He produced a lot of SST material, and it was recorded in 3 sessions in March of 1983, but it wasn't even mixed until November of 1983, and finally released in April 1984. And the reason being is SST was generally always strapped for cash. So Black Flag releases got priority. If a Black Flag release was coming out, that was the one that they pushed. and they had to wait until they recouped enough money to release the next album. So that was something that Kirkwood wasn't pleased about, because they had this album done, ready to go, and the label kind of held it out. So yeah,
and you can't even tour, or I mean, I guess you could, but you couldn't you couldn't tour with the songs, could you, if it wasn't released?
That would be, I mean, especially if they were going to tour with this album, they could. But if you're going to play, and here's the only thing people know is your hardcore album, and they start playing these songs,
yeah,
it's not going to be pretty. So yeah, this album, it took almost a year from recording to release, and not because they weren't done. They finished recording it quickly. Mixing once they started was quick, and then it was still shelved for months. So that was something that they talked about being irritated about, but in the end they thought it was a pushback because of it being this, new country sound. But in the end, it's probably more based on they just have no money. This is I mean, as someone releasing things on their own, yeah, you got to have the money before you can put anything out. Even if you have, for me, I can think about, I have artwork ready to go, but you have to wait until you can actually afford to put that artwork into a book. So I kind of feel their pain. So yeah, RIP to MTV. It's I miss that. How's it going, Kevin? Honorary cousin Kevin. All right. They would have been booed off the stage, and once we get into our next section, the reviews, we'll talk about that, because they talked about this album as being a reaction to the hardcore scene. They wanted to show that they had more influences than punk rock. They liked punk rock, but they didn't consider themselves punk. They considered themselves a band that was challenging the mainstream, not following the rules of hardcore, which did not bode well, because the hardcore punk scene was hostile. So booed off the stage was, you're in the hardcore punk scene. That would be a gentle reaction. Instead, they had shit thrown at them. They were spit on. It was just ugly. So yeah, a lot of the reaction by their fan base, the original fan base, was just they were being pelted. But I mean, if I have a couple old videos of Black Flag shows from 83 and 84, and I mean, honestly, even if they like what they're hearing, they're throwing shit at you. The hardcore scene, I think that's why so many of the bands wanted to kind of distance themselves from it, is it was just, they're an unforgiving batch of people. They want what they want, and if you don't give it to them, they're going to react with extreme hostility. And that's where you hear about a lot of these bands, they just wanted to get away from it. That's why Fugazi wanted to do something completely different than Minor Threat, because that hardcore scene was so rigid and so difficult to move through. And they're like, we're going to come in and we're going to start playing reggae rhythms and keep that hardcore shit somewhere else. It's not that they don't love hardcore, but just the audience is very difficult. So yes, that would have been a rough thing to go out like, we have no album, but we're going to come and play some new songs in front of people, and yeah, the bottles will fly. So so Dylan was talking about Pitch Black, and then he's saying the hardcore scene was rough. And from pretty much all the research that I've done when we've talked about any of the bands connected to hardcore, it's just a brutal scene. And they, even if they love you, they're gonna hate you. Because I remember when Minor Threat, they were one of the, they're the predominant hardcore band in the DC area. When they broke up for a short amount of time and came back, the fans were absolutely terrible to them. They're like, oh, this is a cash grab. You guys are sellouts. And here you have a band that releases their own material. They don't license it to anybody. They're doing all these things that are just so beneficial for the scene. But because they broke up and came back, they got labeled sellouts, and they're getting stuff thrown at them. And Ian MacKay's talking about getting beat up backstage because these fans are looking at him as a sellout. So if I were the Meat Puppets or any of these bands, I would want to try to distance myself from that scene as well, because it's not a friendly place. So yeah, it's one of those things. You may love the music, but the scene is a rough one. So the regular reviews that came out, though, the real-time reviews from actual publications were pretty strong. It actually got a 4-star review from Rolling Stone. Rolling Stone reviewed it in real time, which is rare because they didn't review a lot of the SST stuff, and that actually caused more rift with the with Black Flag and Greg Ginn, because they're getting this notice. It was actually Kurt Loder who reviewed it, and I have a quote when we get to our lyrics. I have a quote that he put in there that's, crazy that they were getting this much notice. Black Flag wasn't loving it. And
that was before he went to MTV too.
Yeah, when he was just a Rolling Stone reviewer. And yeah, giving it a 4-star. I mean, that's Rolling Stone. I mean, it seems like everything we review gets a 4-star from Rolling Stone. But when you're a band like the Meat Puppets, getting a 4-star from Rolling Stone is huge. And it's not, I mean, even still, it didn't sell huge in its time, but it was big. And the reviews that I was able to find, which are really difficult when you're trying to find them, were generally pretty strong. What you find more is the retrospective reviews, and there we even find a Pitchfork Dewey Decimal. They gave it a 9.0 and talked about its huge influence in the scene at the time. But yeah, the fans in general were not loving it. Audiences heckled, they threatened, and they weren't great. But I think what's going to happen when you're in a scene like that is they're going to see you as a sellout. They're going to be done with you and move on to the next band. So now they could move on and evolve the way that they wanted to. So it had huge influence and a huge legacy. And Kurt Cobain was obsessed with the album, which led to the performance on the MTV Unplugged. And if you read in his book, he wrote some different albums and artists that inspired him, and Meat Puppets were one of the big ones. So now retrospective reviews are very strong. Most of the ones you read are very much praising of it and almost universally praise it. But at the time, it was a lot different. They had to battle through pissing off the hardcores.
Well, they did.
So, hey, Rich, how are you?
Rich.
All right. So, and then Dylan saying sounds like K-pop fans. Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of there. If you grew up in listening to music from the 90s, especially the underground stuff, people were very much, if you are not from this scene, you shouldn't be here. I almost got beat up at a punk show in probably like 94 or 95 because I was wearing a Smashing Pumpkins shirt. And I mean, I'm just like, fuck it. I like all music. Leave me alone. And I walk into, I think it was Guttermouth or something like that. And I'm wearing a Smashing Pumpkins shirt. And some guy's like, fuck the Pumpkins. And I feel stuff coming at my head. And
they're territorial. They're very territorial.
It's punk or nothing. And that, that was kind of a hardcore band of their time, Guttermouth. And that was, the people were spitting on me. So finally I went to the bathroom and turned the shirt inside out. It's like, I can still love the Pumpkins, but here I'm going to hide that shit because damn, these guys are awful. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, but a Guttermouth show was a disgusting thing. People were spitting on the singer and oh man, it was something. That the punk scene of the 90s was pretty crazy. I mean, I liked the music, but and I imagine the 80s were even
they're probably worse.
Insane because that's when the sound, especially like the LA hardcore sound, was just emerging and the people became hugely territorial. And yeah, I'm not a fan of that either, because as if you listen to this show, Dash and we're here to give anything a shot. Yep. And the fact that if you were in that punk scene, the punk and ska scene, I mean, I loved the music, but the fans were at times pretty horrible. And sounds like the 80s was no better. It's like if you're not adhering to one specific thing, then you're going to be shunned. And yeah, that's how like getting spit on for wearing a Smashing Pumpkins shirt kind of thing. So I can relate. I did
They
not wear
just
a
hated.
Smashing
They just
Pumpkins shirt
hated.
again.
They just hated Billy Corgan.
I mean, you can have your opinion on him, but damn, don't spit on me for it. Go have a disco album burning of his stuff if you hate it that much.
Right.
So, yeah, he's not into what Dylan's saying. He's not super into what today's punk scene is. But yeah, I'm sure there are. I mean, I've gone to see. I think that territorial scene thing has kind of died because people the age of my kids, they kind of listen to a little bit of everything, and it's not this territorial. You're punk or you're not punk, and that's where you get into the whole like Green Day signing to a major label and the entire scene turning on them, and Jawbreaker. When they would play new songs, the people would sit down or turn their backs on them. I mean, that scene, the late 80s to early 90s was just brutal. It was, you cannot be anything else. You have to only stay small. And, you know, these bands have bills to pay, but the scenes were very difficult. I mean, I think when I read the book Sellout, a lot of these bands they got thrown away by their fan base just because they signed to a label. So it's pretty sad what ended up happening to them.
I mean, think of it like in the aspect of surfing.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not from that set, if you're not from that wave set, they don't want you anywhere near it. So and that was the same way. That was very territorial. I mean, to an extent, a lot of the even the alternative like this, even the alternative, early alternative was the same way because it still wasn't mainstream until the like you said, the 90s. So even these bands that were starting out, nobody wanted to give them away. You know, it was like, that's our sound. You like country, don't be coming over here listening to alternative or our sound when you got your country sound.
Yeah, and it's just so it was such a mess. And that, you know, Jawbreaker was one of the ones that got hit the hardest. So they even made a song that's, you know, making fun of the punks and how, you know, oh, you better be punk or we're gonna disown you. And then they got disowned for signing up for something. So yeah, it's one of those things where I think the bands, well, they were talking shit about the fans, and then their fans turned on them because, like, how dare you? Like, we'll laugh at this until you sign to a major label, and then we're through with you. So, yeah, the Meat Puppets got a little bit of that, and I think as it moved on, people loved their new sound. They were influenced by the new sound and not just angry because they weren't a hardcore band anymore. But yeah, well, I think we have Rites of Spring coming up, and that's another one that kind of hits that territorial because they came from the DC hardcore. So when we talk about them in a few weeks, we'll be back on the awfulness of people in the scene. All right. So what is your history with the Meat Puppets?
Just the only song that I ever knew. I mean, obviously, I grew up in the 80s and I knew who they were, but I didn't know their, you know, I was still at this time now moving into my, you know, my country phase. And because my brother had left. So for the most part, all my rock was gone with him. And then so I started moving to country, so I knew who they were, but it wasn't until that, you know, I heard Lake of Fire on the Nirvana, and so I knew who the Meat Puppets, you know, I knew who they were, so I knew that song, but I still just never like really took the time to listen to them. I'm getting ready to go in the military, and then so by that time I was already kind of, you know, headstrong and stuck in my ways. So I knew who they were growing up in the 80s, but I never really listened to them because, like you said, MTV didn't play them. I don't even think they got on 120 minutes or any of that stuff.
No, I mean, so they had a video on this album, but I don't think I ever saw it. It didn't even make it to like Beavis and Butthead. That would have been the kind of place they could have thrown one of these songs on and had some fun with it, but I didn't even see it make that.
So I don't I don't uh, know their music. I know of them, and that's pretty much my history with them. But I've
Yeah.
always, just I love Lake of Fire. Even when because Nirvana, I do love Lake of Fire. I think that's a
Yeah.
fantastic song,
Yeah.
and I did not know the history of the song until you just said it. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's a great song. But yeah,
His acid trip song. I mean,
yeah. I
it
mean, you can
tracks.
tell
If
it
you listen
tracks.
to it, you're like, all right, I can see it. I can see it completely.
Yeah, it tracks.
So yeah, that my history is kind of similar to yours. I knew of them. They were one of those names you always heard, but I didn't really know them until I was watching that MTV Unplugged, and he's like, "All right, we're gonna bring up the Brothers Meet," and there they played those 3 songs, and I loved those songs, but it still didn't make me go out and buy the CD. But we're also
Yeah,
talking the time when you go to the, the music store and a CD 17 bucks. And it wasn't one I could grift through Columbia House. So
right.
SST wasn't doing the Columbia House or BMG thing. So I never bought it. I knew those songs and that was about it until the the Backwater song, the one that got played on MTV, and I heard that. I was like, it's okay. And I just never bought any of their stuff.
I feel like they've been mentioned in like movies before though,
Mm-hmm.
like in '80s movies, like the when we started getting our teen movies. I feel like Meat Puppets' name been dropped in probably
Yeah.
a few, and it would not surprise me if Fast Times at Ridgemont High probably dropped. I can't remember, but
Yeah.
their names have been dropped. So I mean I know of them from the '80s, but
Yeah. I mean, it's what the cool kids would be listening to because it's that anything on the SST label was in that kind of deep underground where it
right,
was that it never got anything in the mainstream. I mean, getting a Rolling Stone review is crazy because it was just so underground. The fact that they even got reviewed in Rolling Stone is a huge step for them. So I mean, it didn't please their label mates, but they still got reviewed in there and got a really strong review. So
which shocks me that they didn't even get that didn't even lead to even a little bit of exposure. Because I mean, let's not pretend that like Kurt Loder's not like one of the premier reviewers anyways. I
yeah.
mean, they put him on the MTV News for a reason. So
Yeah.
that shocks me that they didn't get a lot of exposure from that.
Yeah, I mean it probably just came and went too quick because people were reading through Rolling Stone and just, they got a little buzz for a minute and it seems like it would have, elevated them, but I think it was just the fact that late SST, you couldn't just walk into any record
Right.
store and buy an SST album.
Right, right,
If
right,
you
right.
walk into, let's say, Tower Records back in the day, you're like, oh, I heard about this Meat Puppets album. Odds are they're not even going to have it, and then you have to special order it. And I remember doing that at the record store. Like, you really want a particular album, you special order it, and they make you drop $30 to get it.
Right.
And if you bought an SST album, if you got it, I have a couple of old Black Flag albums and they have an actual mailing list, or not mailing list, but like a mail order insert that goes in there. So that would have been the way to get it, but people wouldn't know. If you're reading the MTV or not MTV, the Rolling Stone review, you're not going to know, oh, I just got to go find an SST mail-in catalog and get it that way. You want to go to your easy, let me go to Music Plus and grab that album. And Music
Right.
Plus like, nope, but we'll special order for you and you'll have it in 2 weeks and it's going to cost you $30. And
$30.
that's when people just walk out the door. And oh my gosh, I had to special order so many albums because I was like, I listened to a lot of the lesser known stuff. And it was such a damn pain in the ass. And then you get it sometimes 3-4 weeks later. And by the time you get it, you're like, damn, I forgot I ordered this damn thing and I don't have $30.
Yeah.
So yeah, now it's a lot easier. I mean, you have pretty much almost all of music at the touch of your fingers, whether it be YouTube or Spotify. So it was a lot more difficult, and that's probably what held them back. And then when Kurt Cobain brought him out, that was their moment where this album finally got the
The shine.
recognition and probably a lot of sales. And now if you go into the used bin, you can probably find a lot of them in the used bin because people bought it and they're like, wait a second, that's not that doesn't sound like the Kurt Cobain version.
Right.
And you go in and you can probably find a huge amount of Meat Puppets sitting in the used bin. Honestly, you could probably find a lot of Nirvana sitting in the used bin too, because people bought it and they moved on. I mean, you can find a lot of great music in the used bin. I'm not talking any trash because I have lived by, you know, scouring the used bin for vinyl, for CD, for whatever it may be, because it saves you a lot of money. And especially in the 90s when CDs were $16.99 each and I was making $4 an hour. It's like, damn, that's 4 hours of work. I better like this damn CD. It's going to cost me 4 hours of work. That's basically a whole shift to buy a CD. And if this shit sucks, I'm going to be pissed. And you, there's no returns. You can't be like, okay, I'm going to go take this thing back and try to get a better thing. You sell it back and they were like, all right, we'll give you $3 for that album. And you're stuck with it. So the used bin was the way, like something like the Meat Puppets. You're like, oh, good, there's 18 of them in the used bin and I can get it for $9 instead of 16. So now it's 2 hours of work instead of 4. So even so, you got really, I was always skeptical. Like I would have a hard time buying something I'd never heard just because, you know, it could be terrible and you're out.
It had to be one of those albums. It had to be one of those albums that you knew every song on every side, that I was going to give my money to, because, you know, $17 for a damn CD was expensive.
It was. And that's why I grifted the Columbia House the way I did. Like, all right, get my 12 CDs for a penny. My dog got its 12 CDs for a penny. And, you know, use my little brother's name, whatever it took. Like, all right, here comes another package. And then they're trying to tell my dog he's going to collections. I'm like, I don't think the dog cares. I think the dog is okay getting sent to collections. You do you, Columbia House, but you're not going to get me to buy the whatever, like 7 CDs you were supposed to buy afterward that would cost you $20-something a pop. So yes, my dog is probably still being hunted by the Columbia House goons somewhere, but
yeah,
they'll never get their money. Sorry, but that's where I would get a lot. And stuff like SST stuff, Discord stuff, you weren't going to find it on there, so I never tended to grab that. All right.
If they had a dog catcher, they might catch him, but
sorry, you missed the dog, he's gone. But yeah, man, it's using whatever names you could and just getting that the stack of CDs that was growing, and then you like kept taping that penny to it. All right, well, so we're 42 minutes in and we've covered the history. So
wow, that's good.
So here we go. What are your overall thoughts on this one?
Oh, this is one of those albums, like, it really hits you about your 5th time. Like seriously, like the first time I was like, what in the world am I listening to? And then, so, because, you know, we got to get our general thoughts off the first listen.
Yeah.
So yeah, by the 5th listen, you're like, okay, now it's making sense. Now I understand.
I'm feeling this. Yeah,
I'm feeling it. And so if our show had been one and done, you know, one and we're done, one listen, and you have to make your this might be a totally different album for me. But
we might have been treating it like a King Crimson album.
Like a King Crimson. But I just started really vibing with this thing. Probably about I lie about the 5th. Probably about the 3rd time. I'm like,
I'd
okay,
say so.
Yeah, I'm like, by the 3rd time, I'm like, man, this is really good. Or this song, now I understand what this song means.
Yeah.
And I really dug the way that they set it up. I like how it kind of opens now. I like the instrumentals bounced in there.
Yeah.
And so it really grew on me. So I can, at first, one of my very first thoughts was like, who the hell was influenced by this? Really?
Yeah.
And then you go, oh, okay. And now I was starting to hear. I know we talked about, you know, some of the people, but I was hearing some they might be Giants in there. I was hearing,
I could say so.
Squirrel Nut Zipper type things.
To
me. So I'm like, now I understand who's influenced by this. And
now you're getting it.
Yeah.
Yes. So yeah, I definitely understand that. For me, Same thing. It took about 3 listens, and it's my thoughts is it's just a wild ride. It goes through
Yeah.
a huge amount of music styles. It's always feeling sun-baked. It always feels like you're just moving through a desert that's barren and it's a wasteland, and I guess that's all the acid trips that created this album, but it never gets boring. I mean, it's constantly flipping
Dude.
itself and moving to different places, and I would say I'm going to be fully honest. Kurt's voice took me a couple times before I
Right.
wasn't just like, stop it. No, don't sing. Just go back to go. Now I know why the hardcores are angry. They don't want to hear you actually try to hit notes. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun ride. It just bounces through musical styles, and you love that you can hear all their influences in one place where it's not just one thing. You can hear the psychedelic, you can hear the jam band aspects, you can hear the punk still in there. It's not completely removed yet. It ends up disappearing, but yeah, you hear that all in there, and it just makes for a wild listen. But you can see if people bought this album, if they went out and picked it up based upon the MTV Unplugged, by about song 3, they're going to be taking it right back to the used bin, getting their $3 off the 16 they paid, and never actually finishing. It's one that you do need to invest more than one listen, or you'll be turning it right off. It's definitely not a single listen kind of thing.
And I ended up appreciating the country vibe mixed with the punk and the psychedelic. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, that sounds really, really cool. Like like Dylan was saying earlier, you could probably, some of the bands from the country genre in the 70s and 80s probably could have used some of this, and it changed their entire lineup on the album. But
Yeah.
I mean,
shake things up a little bit.
Yeah,
Why
shake
not?
things up. But I did. Yeah, you're like, oh, that sounds really cool there. Like you got that bluegrass element with a little bit of hard guitar, and it makes sense. And it makes sense.
The punk guitar with like bluegrass picking, and yeah, it's interesting. So Castle Rat, I have not heard the band Castle Rat, so you're dropping some new ones. I like that. I will definitely seek them out. I'm always searching for something new and cool. So let's move into our next category, and that is best songs.
Okay.
All right, so what's one that you picked on this one?
I'm going to do this one a little different. I'm going to give you 2 of my favorite lyrical songs.
Okay.
And then I'm going to give you 2 of my favorite. So we'll do lyrical first. I love Lake of Fire. I thought that was just I know he wrote it on acid, but I think you can understand the lyrics really well. I think and the lyrics make sense.
Yes.
And then that tune behind it and the melody and everything with it, you're just like, that is a really, really good song. And that was only one on the first listen. I was like, but again, I kind of knew it. I was like, I knew that it would not be the the Nirvana and Kurt Cobain version. But I was like, and now I have an appreciation for both ways that they did it. I really like the way Kurt did it, and I really like the way Meat Puppets did it.
Yeah.
So Lake of Fire and then Plateau is really good. Those are my top 2. I think all the lyrical songs are really good. So yeah, those are my 2 lyrical songs. Which ones did you have for lyrical? And I'll give you my.
For lyrical, let's see. I think I had let me see, which ones did I had? I had Plateau. I like some of the lyrics on Whistling Song when we get there.
Yeah.
And yeah, those 2 I would say lyrical. But then the ones you mentioned, of course, those are the ones that I know so well because I had that, MTV Unplugged album and played it a lot. I loved that particular Nirvana album, and also had a recording of the performance as well.
Yeah. I mean, God, the Whistling Song is really good. And if I hadn't just really enjoyed Plateau and because Plateau is not like, I mean, that does have some lyrics.
Yeah.
But it's really good with the. I mean, if it did not have lyrics, that would have been one of the best instrumentals too. I just want that to be said.
It's musically so good.
Yeah, musically so good. So, but yeah, Whistling, something I just just loved about the whistling song, and so I got some lyrics from that one when we
Yeah,
come to it. So
same. All right. So yeah, one I picked the first two I actually picked. I picked Split Myself in Two.
yeah.
And that one is your opener, and it's got that punk vibe. And I'm imagining the people, the hardcore fans were like, all right, here we are. We got
Yes.
another one, another hardcore album. And then the next track would be the one that makes them want to throw their, I guess it would have been album. This would have been CD era, not CD era. So that would make them throw their album across the room when you get into Lost, which is, I just know the next one is an instrumental, but then yeah, Lost. I had that one. It's a
Lost
jangly
is,
country jam. So the Lost on the Freeway one.
but
It's like it's
its
just
guitar work is
it's
oh
yeah, it's got that bluegrass picking, and then you got that little punk aesthetic in there too, and it's just it's fun and it gets stuck in your head.
yeah.
You just like I keep thinking of that the chorus, and it's just, oh man, it works really well.
Like I said, this is an album. If you don't listen to it more than once, you're going to miss some fantastic just instrument work. Period. Just the
Mm-hmm.
guitars and everything. You're
Yeah,
just like, how and why is that working when
yeah,
it should not work? And you're like, but
yeah.
it works. So
By
yeah,
all accounts, it should fail, and yet it doesn't. So yeah, it's
Lost is so. I want to say under. I mean, because it doesn't get a whole lot of love. All the reviews and things that I saw, Lost is left behind a lot of times. So I would say that's an
yeah.
underrated song on the
Yeah,
album.
because I think honestly that the main focus goes to the songs that Kurt Cobain did,
Yeah, yeah,
and with reason. I mean, I'm sure Kurt Cobain picked the songs. He picked more of the psychedelic stuff
yep,
and not the kind of punky stuff, because he wanted something that would fit with the MTV Unplugged that he was doing.
yeah.
And Lost, if he busted that out, it would have changed the vibe of that evening.
Yeah.
But the three songs he picked, the more introspective psychedelic, they work better for what he was doing. So yeah,
You're
it's
just. I beg anybody watching, you have to listen to this album.
yeah,
And,
it's one that, like I said, in the next couple weeks, I'll be able to actually play the albums before Dash can come on sometimes too, and that way you can hear them. But this would have been hard, because if you were listening to it just once and we were playing it on Pilled, you'd have thought, oh, this sucks. I want to go
yeah.
on and let them and help them bash it, and then it wouldn't have had the chance to grow
Yeah.
on you. And it was, I think I didn't get to it until Sunday, because it is just mad dash of life at the moment. And
Dash of life. Dash of
dash
life.
of life, there you go. So as I hit my third listen yesterday on my run, and I'm like, okay, it works for a run. It is one of those albums that
Yes, it
the
does.
tempo keeps you moving, and I'm like, okay, I'm finally here. I'm understanding. I'm finally connecting with this one. So
And Fred, if you're still listening, this is a good writing album. This is a really good writing album. When you're in some of those high octane scenes in your book, this is a
yeah.
really good album to listen to. I'm telling you, man.
See,
And
I can't do lyrics when I'm writing, but I mean it's got three instrumentals that could definitely go into my writing mix, because
yeah.
I just lyrics will distract me, and especially, I mean, I like the album, but his voice still grates on me sometimes. And if I'm writing and be like, when I'm hearing him
yeah.
hit, we're like when he can't hit a note, it's like, man, he'd get booed off the stage at a karaoke bar. So it's rough. So I think it
That
would take
was
me out of the writing vibe.
that was one of my one of my very first notes was, how in the world did they get a recording contract with his voice like that? Because there's people that sing. I've known people that have sung really good that can't get any. And then, but as the out, like I said, as the album goes on, you kind of just it kind of. I don't want to say it like goes to background noise. It just it melds in with it, and it becomes part. It really does
Yeah.
become part of the
It
song.
works. And
Yeah,
and you also have to think when they got signed to SST. First off, that'd be like me signing someone to Finish Line Comics. You haven't accomplished that much. But they were signed as a hardcore band.
Right.
And when you listen to the first song, his voice works as a hardcore song. I mean,
Yes.
you don't need to be able to hit notes. It's like that Cheech and Chong. You just got to be a punk. So they got signed as a hardcore band, and it wasn't because of his voice. It was because of a hardcore voice. And you look at the bands, the people that sang with Black Flag. You got Henry Rollins. He's not a crooner, but he's got a perfect punk rock voice. But if he tried to sing the way the Meat Puppets were singing, it wouldn't have worked.
No, not at all.
But in the end, they got signed as a hardcore band and were able to change because they weren't on Warner Brothers. They're not looking like, oh, you guys better sell 1 million copies or we're going to drop you off the label. You like sell 500 and SST is going to be okay. Sell out of the print run that we do. And I'm sure most of those just sold when they were playing shows, because you had a lot of bands that are now revered, but none of them were, you know, going platinum.
Right.
We're not looking at SST worried about you going gold, platinum, or beyond. It's just, you know what? Sell enough to not make us lose money, and we call it a win.
Truth.
So, all right. So, yeah. So he heard their version of Lake of Fire. Very different than the
so are you familiar
with
the Kurt Cobain version, Fred?
I would assume that's the one he knows, because that's the one most people know. I mean, that's kind of the gold standard of it, because it's not that to say it's better or worse. It's just the one that people know first.
Yeah.
And you generally will relate to the one you hear first. And that's the hard thing on this one. Hearing the 3 songs that were on MTV Unplugged and trying to say, is it the best song because I knew it from MTV Unplugged, or is it just a good song? And I'd have to say they're just good songs.
They're just good songs. That's why I said this Lake of Fire is way different, obviously, but I think it stands out more because they did it in this way, and the way that the melody works with this album. You're just like, nope. I now I understand why, as Ed said. Now I understand why Kurt Cobain chose those songs.
Yeah, why would he pick those 3? You have an album of material to choose from. Obviously, you can throw out the 3 instrumentals because that's not going to work for what they're going for. But what songs are going to work? And he went with the ones. I mean, first off, they have to work acoustic, because they were the whole thing is unplugged. And some of the songs, like you look at my first pick, that's a punk song. You're not going to play, you know, Split Myself or Lost even, because they wouldn't really work acoustic. And plus they weren't going for that. It's kind of alt country vibe more they were going for, not the bluegrassy country.
Right.
So, all right. Did you have any other favorite songs?
I love not lyrical, but I love Magic Toy Missing. I thought that second song coming after that hardcore, you're just like, whoa, that's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And then I digged Aurora Borealis.
Yeah. I had that one as well. That's
such a good
song. The instrumentals are really good, and that's just it's a psychedelic jam.
Mm-hmm.
And my thought as I'm listening to this just feels like a night in the desert staring at the stars.
Yes.
Like if I go to the desert and I'm listening to that one, that's the perfect soundtrack when you're looking at this, you know, sky full of stars, more vivid than you've ever seen them, because I've done camping in the desert, and this, like, all right, I would definitely play this whole album if I'm sitting in the desert. I don't need the acid trip. I'll just stare at the stars and enjoy them. But yeah, that one is a good one. I liked all 3 of the instrumentals. And I even liked, there was another instrumental on the extended version, and all of them are great. I would drop any one of them into my writing mix and be fine. Cause like I said, it's not even good, bad, or otherwise. Lyrics just break my concentration. So I had that one, and then I had
Aurora Borealis. You're just sitting, you're just laying there with your hands behind your head, just like this, on your back, and you're soaking that song in, and it's
watching
Try
the
it. Try it while you're
constellations,
yes.
watching the constellations move away from you, which is what you can do if you sit out in the desert. It's just watching the stars move and shift in the sky. And that song, it's the soundtrack for that moment of just enjoying that nature, that the desolation and beauty of it. So yes, if I do, there's a marathon that I've done that it starts at midnight and it runs through the desert, and you're just looking up at the most vivid stars you'll ever see, and the only thing you can see is a cactus at the side of the road and some Joshua trees. This album will be played in its entirety if I do that race again, where I will play it, because then I'm running. I'm all about the lyrics, but if I want to create those desert vibes, this is the album I'm dropping on.
Absolutely.
And just enjoying that night sky as you're, doing a bunch of miles. So yeah, now I kind of want to do that run again just so I can play this album, because the vibes would be the strongest ever. Like, all right, I'm feeling this, and it would boost my pace. Where we've talked about the albums that slow your pace down, this one wouldn't do that. This one would get me moving quicker and feeling better and just loving the beauty of the nature. Because I mean, that run just drops you in the middle of the Nevada desert, and it's such a spectacular, just the sights. I mean, the midnight stars. I mean, granted, it's 32 miles, so you get tired of all the views after a little bit, because you're like, all right, you know what, I just want the view of my bed right about now, because you're doing 32 miles, finishing at about 4 a.m, and oh my gosh, it's brutal. And that's it. I think I ran it in like 4.5 hours, and that's a good race.
Yeah,
but
very good race.
I could have a bad race and it could be like 7 hours, and you're going to be out there for that much time. You're like, no more music, no more anything. Just let this race end, I beg of you. So now I talked myself into it and immediately talked myself out of it.
Yeah, I was going to say.
But they also have a half marathon. I'll sign up for that, because it is just beautiful. I mean,
that sounds like a good run.
Spectacular views, desert at midnight. You can't beat that. It is amazing. But I think I will not do the 51K, because that shifts from being beautiful to being torture pretty damn fast.
Yeah.
All right.
That's all I got.
So I also have Oh Me. That's another unplugged one, but it's so good. Yeah. And it's just, again, that desert psychedelic. And that's kind of my favorite vibe that they have. I love that desert psychedelic vibe that they bring, whether on instrumentals or on the other ones. And then the last one I had was the final instrumental. And this one, full couch metaphor time. I'm listening to this song, and all of a sudden in my brain, I'm thinking of Wacky Races. I don't know if you ever watched that cartoon.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this stop. Yes. So I thought this song, my notes were, this song needs to be the soundtrack of a Wacky Races cartoon that's played while the racers are traversing through a desert in doom buggies.
Yes.
And they're kicking up dirt, and they're trying to outwit Muttley the dog and Dick Dastardly.
Yes.
So as I'm hearing this, I'm just thinking of them racing through the desert. Muttley, he's chasing them. Dick Dastardly is chasing them. And yeah, that's the first thing that pops in my mind. So yes, shout out to Wacky Races and Muttley the dog.
That is a very obscure. Yeah,
I heard it, that's what I'm seeing. Like in my brain, I start seeing one of those races, and Yogi Bear is being chased down, but it's in the desert and it's all in doom buggies. And yeah, there you go. So Wacky Races. That's what this brought out in my brain. So yeah, and I guess if you're not a kid of the 80s, you'll be like, I've never heard of Wacky Races or Muttley the dog. And yeah, and his snickering whenever he would do something to, pop the tire or make them fall in a giant desert ditch. So yes, I wrote an entire Wacky Race in the desert when I was listening to this song in my brain. So I guess that's good when you can write the words of a song in your head because you're hearing it, or write an episode in your head because you're hearing it. And I guess that's where it works as an instrumental, because it's like, the Wacky Race is happening.
that might be a first for this show because I don't think we've ever even got cartoons involved. So that might be our very first cartoon.
Yeah, our first cartoon
Yeah.
couch metaphor,
Nice.
wacky races in the desert. So yes, my gosh, I haven't watched that since I was a kid, but that's what popped in my head was that dog. I
Yeah.
just saw Muttley, and I'm like, I just see him snickering as he did something to sabotage someone.
Oh
And
yeah.
they always almost win, and then in the end, they get foiled somehow by someone. All right. So, any other songs you want to mention before we move into lyrics?
Yeah, no.
All right. So, what are some lyrics that stood out to you?
So I have from Lake of Fire. I'm gonna go switch over to my notes here, so I might freeze up, but you'll still be
Okay.
able to hear me. But my notes I have: Where do bad folks go when they die? They don't go to heaven where the angels fly. They go to the lake of fire and fry. Won't see them again till the 4th of July. Man, that just you're opening with that,
Mm-hmm.
and again, we all probably heard it on the unplugged, but to hear
Yeah.
him sing that, and I was just like, wow. I mean, I wasn't a big fan of his voice, but those
Yeah.
lyrics really hit,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is just one of the yeah. Uh, I love that. I mean, and again, I mean, we can go. I'm sure you've got lyrics from it, so
Yeah.
I won't take away from it. But I love that opening. Verse. It's just
Actually, you know what?
so
You
good.
can take more. I didn't write those ones down because I
And
figured,
then
all
I
right, I'll get
got,
some other ones.
and then I got. Now the people cry and the people moan, and they look for a dry place to call their home, and try to find some place to rest their bones, while the angels and devils fight to claim them for their own. This is this is Revelation at its finest.
Yeah.
The Book of Revelations. And we talk about him tripping, and he was having a moment.
Yeah.
He was having. I don't like to get biblical or religious on here,
Yeah.
but yeah, he was having a moment. I don't know if he, well, like you said, if he really was laying in the desert when he was writing this.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they had a moment putting this song
Yeah.
together, and I love it, not because of it, the religious thing, but he was that trip. Now that you say it, that trip gave him a moment in his head.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty cool.
He was seeing, that was his, religious thoughts that
Right.
you can't take that away. And yeah, that was huge in that one. So yeah, let's see. I had from Lost where he said, walking the breezeways again, thinking of something, my friend. I've grown tired of living Nixon's mess, walking the breezeways again. And it's just like, yeah, we're always thinking like, man, the doesn't matter, fill in the blank president name, and you're just
Right.
like dealing with the mess. And I found some good not lyrics, but a good quote from Kurt Loder. So I'm going to make it bigger because I'd be
Nice.
squinting hard on that from his review, which I thought was really good. So I'll grab that. So let's see. This was from his review of the album. So in his 4-star review, he said he called the album a cultural trash compactor. There's 80s angst and 70s debauchery, but with the Grateful Dead influence, the cosmic imagery, the acid damage, the laid-back vibe, and the heavy dose of Zen philosopher Alan Watts. It's the specter of the 60s counterculture, which hangs most heavy over the album. The members of the Meat Puppets were old enough to absorb that culture, but too young to have enjoyed it before it collapsed. So when Kurt sang and Lost, so when he sang in Lost, I'm tired of living in Nixon's mess, he meant it. So yeah, I like how he was talking about that, because yeah, they're kind of in between cultures, and they're, and that's a lot of what the hardcore scene was kind of born out of. It was born out of the philosophy of the hippies, but it kind of morphed into something different. Yes. And it was kind of that, we want something that's counterculture, something that's different, but they had to make something their own, because by that point the hippies were yuppies, and it, that scene was gone to them. So they might have seen their parents in it, but they never got a chance to live it. And that's where punk kind of hatched out of that in LA and in DC. And then
they were mad at their parents for going yuppie.
Yeah. because they loved what the hippies were about, but they
Yeah.
weren't going to continue that hippie vision. They wanted their own counterculture that they could make, and not worry about it falling apart. And I think that's why you get a lot of that anti-sellout thing in the punk scene,
Oh yeah.
is because they really don't want to, become about the money. So you can understand where it comes from, but man, the fan base also gets pretty nasty about it. And selling out is anything that they deem not cool enough for
Cool
them.
enough.
When you
Yep.
the fact that they were calling Ian MacKaye a sellout, the most unsellout human being on the planet, who wouldn't do interviews in Rolling Stone because they had alcohol ads in them, who won't sell his things to movies or TV, and oh, you broke up and came back, you're a sellout. So it's like, yeah, that's where they take it too far. But they were trying not to become the new yuppies. I think that was the big
That's
thing.
exactly what it is. Yeah, exactly.
Because they watched the scene go from pure to completely tainted with their parents, and that's why this scene's going to be better and this scene's going to be different. But yeah, you got to realize who's the sellout and who's not. All right, you want to call Green Day a sellout because now they're selling millions of albums, fine, but you're going to call Black Flag or Minor Threat a sellout. It's like, that doesn't quite work, because they played a song a little slower on this album. Now they're sellouts. Like, nope, they're still in the whole DIY thing, but yeah, that's a scene that's impossible to please, as we've talked about and through all this, and will again when we get to Rites of Spring.
I think it's, as sad as it sounds, at some point we all cave to the dollar.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're Ian MacKaye, but yeah, that scene. I was listening to one of the podcasts, and it was with the singer from Touche Amore, which is kind of a more modern hardcore band. And he's like, yeah, we'd all love to have that aesthetic, but we have to be able to pay the bills.
Yeah.
And he's just lucky enough that he could play $5 shows and still pay the bills. But that's also because even though they weren't mainstream, they were still selling, gold albums. They were selling 500,000 copies, and everything went directly to them. There was no middleman. So they were able to do it. And most hardcore bands can't live off of, $5 shows and DIY albums, because they're not going to sell 500,000 copies. They're going to sell 500 if they're lucky, and that's not going to pay the rent. So yeah, it's one of those things where everyone would love to have that, but he just happened to be lucky enough to sell albums and do it, where bands like the Meat Puppets, Black Flag back in the day, they weren't selling enough to say, hey, we can say no to the major labels, because eventually Meat Puppets went there, and that was when they, after the Kurt Cobain thing, and I'm sure a lot of their fans would have seen them playing with Kurt Cobain as a big sellout moment. So,
yeah, that probably would have been a sellout moment for sure.
Yeah, and in the end, it's like they need to pay the bills, and they were watching bands around them get signed to majors, because they figure they would have been on the road looking at bands like REM, and their REM getting mainstream exposure and mainstream fame. And it's like, yeah, we want a little bit of that. Why don't you send some this way? And it was finally after that MTV Unplugged that they did get signed. And I think they still never made it to platinum or anything like that. But I didn't research
any. I didn't see any albums that went platinum.
No, maybe gold. I mean, I don't know.
I think two did go gold.
I would imagine that this one would have gone gold after the MTV Unplugged.
No, it did not go gold.
I guess it
became a success, but it never
didn't hit gold. Wow.
It didn't even hit gold after.
So Too High to Die, which was the one that had Blackwater, that one did go to 500,000 copies. So yeah, that one is the only one that went gold and nothing else. And that was
I would
right
have thought
after that came out in 94. So we are talking right on the heels of that. And it did get some play. The Backwater song did get radio play. I do remember hearing it. So that was their only one that went gold. I thought maybe this one would have moved to the gold status, but no, just that one. So there you go. So that's saying that that gold album, that one hit, probably paid the bills for a while, but he got into legal troubles. He got into drug trouble. So a lot of that money, sadly, probably got flushed.
Probably this one probably hit. There's no actual reliable sales numbers on it, but they're guessing tens of thousands, not hundreds of thousands.
I mean, with SST, it's tricky because they just it'd sell out, they'd print some more, it'd sell out, they'd print some more, but they're not keeping tabs. They're not thinking, okay, well, here now with all these batches, it sold this, because for the longest time you were getting it as a mail order album. That was your way, or you were at the show and you grabbed it at the merch booth. But they're not keeping track of, how many sold at the merch booth. And we've now hit this one, because I don't even think the original copies would have even had a barcode to be sellable in major record stores. So yeah, that was another one that they looked at Ian MacKaye as a sellout because he put barcodes on the albums. So they could be sold at Tower Records and things like that. It's just like, man, you just want to hate on people for, he's still selling them through himself, but now you have a barcode, you're a sellout. So yeah, but that, you can't keep track of a lot of these ones because they were indie for so long, and it was just, we sold 500, print another 500, and just keep doing it that way. So maybe Greg Ginn would know, but that would be about it.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was loving life right about the time of the MTV Unplugged, when all of a sudden the orders started coming through better than they ever had. All right, so any other lyrics? We are distracting ourselves.
Yeah, I know. Let me pull up the Whistle song.
Yes.
Again, this is another one where I'm assuming they're under the influence, but it hovers in the living room just above the door. It whistles while it hangs there, feathers dripping from every pore.
Yeah.
I'm trying to picture. Like, this is another one of those. Is what did Kent say? What were they saying here? And but for some reason that line itself, it's a good song. I mean, it's a good song. We talked about it. It even starts out really good, but I'm trying to figure out exactly, because it goes into, it shows a spectacle of falling and settles to the floor. It showed a spectacle of falling.
Yeah,
and it just keeps repeating that, and I'm just like, I don't know what he's talking about, but
yeah,
this is a good lyric to make you go, huh?
It's got that ominous feel to it.
Yes,
because I had lyrics from that one too, and they just all have this ominous overtone.
Like, we're going back to, I take it back to Lake of Fire, and I kind of tie it into this one. Is he seeing a portent of death? Is he? Because if you look at Lake of Fire, and he's definitely, I don't know what he's going through, but he's seeing some stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering if he's like, I at times I'm like, is this like a mortality song for him, or a mortality? We all at some point in our lives, we all deal with our own mortality, I think.
Yeah.
And I wonder if the combination of the drugs and what was going on, and just their style of writing, if he wasn't questioning mortality, because with that song, and then that's why I picked these two songs specifically, made me want to think if he was just questioning mortality, or his own mortality, or where he'll be in the grand scheme of things. So that's my interpretation, and take it for what it's worth. But I just thought those were really good lyrics.
Yeah, I had one from the opening. It's the shadow in the dark, the silver in the park. It's the broken, faded bird you've learned to call your heart. So yeah, just something's looming over him through this whole song. And what is it? Is it death? Is it mortality? Is it, coming to grips with everything that's happening in his life? We just don't know. But yeah, it's great lyrics through that whole one. All right. So any other lyrics for this one?
No, I think that's really the ones I wanted to talk about.
Go ahead.
I will say lyrically, there's all the lyrical songs are really good.
Yeah.
And it's again, it's one of those albums where we picked, where we're just going, I could sit there and write, or I could pull the lyrics and be like, all right, I'm going to write a thesis and a paper on this album of what he was going through. Because I feel like again, he's got a voice that you have to acquire a taste for, but I think the lyrics work for him in this album specifically, and so I will say lyrically this is a fantastic album as well. So I'm not putting down any other songs because I'm not reading their lyrics.
But I had one more, but I will say his voice is like jumping into a cold pool. You got to adjust. You got to swim around a bit before you're finally comfortable. But once you get there, you're happy, and you're ready to swim some more. But yeah, the first jump, it's just like, oh no, am I going to make it through this? This is going to be a lot. But then you're just like,
really cold. Oh, but I'm warming up. Yeah,
once you get accustomed to the water, you're all good. All right, so I had Plateau as well. It was the many hands began to scan around for the next plateau. Some said it was Greenland and some said Mexico. Others decided it was nowhere except for where they stood. But those were all just guesses, wouldn't help you if they could. And Kurt called this one a coming of age song and just about not knowing where you need to be, not knowing where you're going, not accepting the status quo. So he doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know where he's going, but he's going to keep moving. So I liked that one. And it's just funny. I hear it, and it's hard for me to separate out Kurt Cobain's voice because that's the voice that I was so familiar with when listening to this one. All right. So any skips for this one?
No.
I had one, but it was on the extended, so it got knocked out.
It got knocked out. So what was of the original 12? Because it was original 12 songs on the LP. I would skip nothing, and I did listen to the extended, and I probably had two on. I think I had two on the extended.
Yeah, let me see. I had one. Let me see. It's What to Do. Yes, that one that was my skip, but it was on the extended, and I can see why they left it off. It's kind of like when you watch a deleted scene in a movie and you realize, you know what, that's cool to see, but I can see why it didn't make the movie. That song definitely has that vibe where it's just best left on the cutting room floor. Nice to throw it in when you're doing an anniversary, because there were actually some songs I really liked on the extended, but I just kind of stuck to the full album proper. But
did you like Attack of the Giant Ants?
I don't remember. I think that might have been.
I think that was my. I think it was all right, but that was probably one I would have skipped.
I think that was on my skip, and then I had I had Teenagers. I actually liked that one a lot, but it wasn't on the regular cut. It starts like a hardcore song and then descends into like 6-minute psychedelic jam. So
it was.
That one was a good one. Yeah, but those ones, like I said, those were in my original notes, and when I saw that it was on the extended, I just left them off. But that would have been my skip. It would have been a skip on the extended cut. And if I am playing the cut, that's the one that's on Spotify, I will hit that skip button.
Yes.
But I know there's a record store not far from me that's actually like a punk rock record store. So I'm going to go there and buy this album from them because I know they have the SST catalog in its entirety there. So probably find an original pressing. So yes, I'll get that. And that song won't be on it because that wasn't on any of the vinyl releases. That was on the CD release from 1990,
I do wish Teenagers had been on the original release because
honestly, that's a good song.
It's a really good song too.
And I think that would have been the best opener because it would have been like, we're back, we're hardcore. Fuck you guys, we're not. So a giant middle finger to the hardcore angry people.
And I wonder if that was a cut. And then they later down the road, because I mean, they have a song called Meat Puppets. I think that was just added for the album. But I wonder if Teenagers was a original cut because it really felt like it belonged with the original album. Like
it would have just been the perfect opener to say, we're not about that. We are not that hardcore band, and don't throw bottles at us, please. Because it was they had to kind of have that coming out. And I think the way the coming out on the album is you start with a hardcore song and immediately go into kind of a bluegrass jam.
Yep.
then go into another country vibe song, and it shows you quickly. But if Teenagers had opened it up, it would have been immediate. Just like, we are going to give you like 45 seconds of hardcore, and then this is what we're doing now. And I love that one. That one
great song.
that was in my top tracks. But yeah, we'll stick with the proper, but I guess both of us agree. And then the only skip comes from the extended, and yeah, that's for the album in its 84 release. I got no skips.
Me either.
So
it's really good. It's really fun. Like I said, you got to listen to it a couple times, but once you get through it, you're just like, man, I understand this. I understand this album, and I understand their vibe, and it's a really great album.
Yeah, I gotta dig out. I have a recording I made of theirs from 2008 when they were playing with Built to Spill, so I got to get that. They double headlined, and then they just jammed very noisily together for like 20 minutes to close it out. And
that's pretty cool, though.
I have it, but it's on DAT cassette, which is I don't even have a functional DAT player at this point, so I got to get a DAT player so I can start playing those. But I have a friend who digitized it for me, so I asked him, I'm like, hey, send that back over because I need to hear that again, because that was 2008, so my memory is not serving me on what that was all about. But I know they played the MTV Unplugged songs because, of course, that's what they're going to play. But I just remember them in Built to Spill playing a wild, it started as a Meat Puppet song, and then it turned into this wild psychedelic jam with, Meat Puppets. You have Kurt, and then you have Doug Marsh from Built to Spill, who have been known to play long songs. So it was wild. It was fun, but it was also in 2008. So my memory of it is
shoddy,
sparse. Yeah. All right. So easy category. We're going to keep this one or return it to the used bin.
Keeping it. And I did good this time. This was not a King Crimson or
yeah, and honestly, the first listen, before I got accustomed to the cold water, I was like, oh, is this another one? But musically, I was the King Crimson, as much as they're amazing musicians, it's just not my vibe.
Yeah, it's not a vibe.
So this one, musically, I was like, okay, with the second song, the first song being in a hardcore, the second song being an instrumental, I was already kind of locked into them instrumentally. So it wasn't as jarring, because that first King Crimson song, oh my gosh, it's the worst. I hate that song. Yeah. I despise it. And the Spotify DJ was like, you've been vibing to this? Like, no, sir. No, we will not hear that again.
I'm on with Lori. We're doing her chop video.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm on Morning Brew that morning when we do the thing, the slice and dice video. And I'm gonna try to see, because I got till the 16th, I should be able to get it down. I'm gonna see if I can get that album down there to her to add that to the slice and dice.
Oh, did you buy it?
I bought it.
Ouch! Oh, I fortunately did
paid
not.
$5 for it.
You know what? That's like what I paid for Kate Bush. It's all right. I bought it for 99 cents, and it's all right. I can send it to Lori. It'll cost me more to ship it than I paid to buy it. All right. So next week, let me pull this up. We are coming back. I don't know where my next week thing is, so I'll take off this one. Whoops, sorry. Trying to get this going. So next week we are looking at D'Angelo Voodoo. So yeah, that should be interesting. I've never played a full D'Angelo album.
I can say that with 100% accuracy that I have not either.
Several podcasts that I've already started doing the research on. So I have a lot of good backstory on him, and unfortunately he is one who tragically died young. Right. So we'll be listening to his album Voodoo, and we will see. I'll be here on Saturday morning, so tune in for that. And until then, have a great rest of your week. What's that?
I do have a huge announcement.
What is that?
Tomorrow morning, Hell Comes to Texas.
Ooh.
The Hand of the Devil drops tomorrow on Amazon.
Awesome.
I will have the link up for tomorrow. I am doing a 10 o'clock Central Time book launch on Facebook Live. You guys come out if you can. those watching come out and visit, say hello, and help me celebrate the launch of book 2 of the Hell Comes to Texas series.
Awesome.
And I did. I made another announcement that I will be joining the comic book.
I saw that.
Brand. Yeah, I'm working on a neo-western called the Gospel of Violence.
Oh, okay.
So if you like Sicario, if you like Yellowstone, if you like Sons of Anarchy, this will be right up there with your, and that style. So it'll be very cool to see if that plays out the way I want it to.
Sounds good.
All right.
I will be excited to check those out. I'll get my order in. I won't be able to join you because I will still be teaching third graders. I'm almost free. I got 2 more days. Freedom is almost mine, but we're not quite there yet.
But catch it on the replay. If you missed the live, catch it on the replay. And yeah, I'm excited. I think I got a couple people joining me for the kickoff. So
cool.
It'll be good to talk.
Sounds good. All right. So until then, have a great rest of your week. And Dash will see you tomorrow, and I will see you Saturday.
See ya.